I spent the past 5 years working with some of the most creative, resilient women I've ever met. All of them were experiencing homelessness in Boston. I was a community organizer, and working with them where other people kind of saw weaknesses, I saw innovation and I saw strength, and they kind of illuminated for me the need and responsibility we have to be innovative as we approach social change. As I kind of transitioned from Boston to Chicago, I wanted to honor this resiliency and this innovation that women experiencing homelessness utilized every day, and hope to move kind of from nonprofit to social impact startup. I wasn't sure how to do that, so I reached out to the Startup Institute, and a contact at the Startup Institute actually said, "Hey, I think you might be really interested in this WTF live event." And I was like, WTF? Like, that's really what you guys are going to call it? I love it. And so I went to the Women Tech Founders live event in January. It was like a super snowy night, and was just so impressed by the space. It was in 1871, which I'd heard a lot about, but I had not visited. And like walking in, there were literally hundreds of women, and there was so much energy, and I personally was so intimidated. But then I started to notice the way that everyone was welcoming each other, the way that women were connecting with each other. And the folks who I saw first just during like the networking period then were up on the stage and sharing their stories and sharing also like some of their struggles. So to be an entrepreneur, like, you have to be willing to risk a great deal. And to get up on stage takes vulnerability and risk too. So when you see people doing that, it kind of like levels the playing field, makes you feel more comfortable. So as I was considering moving from nonprofit, where I loved my work, I loved the population I worked with, to a space where I was not sure I would fit in or feel welcomed, I started to see, okay, these women took these risks, they were extremely vulnerable, and there's a community of people here who have done that, and they turned out okay, you know, and actually had a lot of success, some of them. So you'll hear a lot of people in the Chicago tech startup world say, Chicago's different than like the Bay Area or out in New York. We really support each other. We really have each other's back. We're a community where we help each other out. I heard that a lot, and I didn't know if I should believe it. I didn't know why I had reason to believe it. But once I started to see the network that some of the women on stage had, and then the community of people just like talking during the networking time at the event, I started to believe it, and then once I went to the Startup Institute, I really was able to witness that. WTF was actually one of our community partners as well through the Startup Institute, so I was able to see how very integrated everybody was. And you know, in starting my job at Think Circa, absolutely, like all of those different folks who I connected with were the community and that like fabric and network that really helped me to not just find a job in startup, but in a social impact startup that I could really believe in. So if you hear people saying like, "Oh, Chicago's different, we really help each other out," it's absolutely true. And I'm happy to pay that forward in the way people have for me. I think that WTF absolutely has the potential to bring together communities that have otherwise felt marginalized within the tech space. I absolutely think that having resources online where, you know, folks from diverse backgrounds, be it people of color, people who identify as queer, or women who want to enter into the tech space, can go and see like, oh my goodness, there's somebody like me who's doing this, and if she can do it, maybe I can do it, you know? It's scary to go into a new space where you don't know a lot of information, and I mean, having that access online would be super helpful. I'm pretty sure I've watched every video that's on the WTF page now, and if I were in a different space and looking for work in Chicago, I would absolutely be looking to see if people who look like me and who believe in the things I believe in, and who are driven in the same way I am, you know, if they're finding success in this transition to tech. And we're so much stronger when we have a diverse set of experiences and opinions. You know, if I sit in a room with everybody who looks like me, we're going to come up with the same solutions to the problems that we've experienced. But if we bring in a really diverse group, we're going to have a lot of different opinions. We're going to have a lot of different solutions. And I mean, that's what startups in Chicago are trying to do. We're trying to solve some of these huge issues that have been pervasive and that have been around for a long time, and to look at it really creatively. And the more diversity we can bring to that, the more creative we can be, and the stronger our teams are going to be. everybody's gotten to where they are from taking some kind of risk. And you have to take a little bit of risk, and that's, if you're attracted to startup, that means you can't be too risk averse. So I would jump in. Other advice, we have a number of incredible career accelerators that you can kind of build out your mindset, the skills, and really the network that you need. Startup Institute was that for me, but we have some really great resources in Chicago to help you move into this space. I was really inspired at the WTF live event in January by how many students were standing up and saying, hey, I've got this idea. Because I haven't done that before, and I thought, man, I've had a lot of those ideas. I wish that I would, and so if you have that idea, like, stand up and tell people. It's pretty exciting, and there are a lot of people who want to listen. So, and I guess one other piece of advice that I would give people is, which might like counter that a little bit. So there are like millions of ideas out there. But when you're looking at a startup to join, you want to look at who can execute on those ideas as well. That's advice that was given to me. Like, yeah, that might be the best idea in the world, but can you execute on it? And that's something that's been really helpful to me. That's what attracted me to Think Circa. They're absolutely executing in schools and classrooms every day. So that's another piece of advice I would share.